This meeting is being recorded.
2 minutes, there was about 6 people here, so 2 minutes ago, so I'm glad to see everybody coming.
Well, we've got at least one of the presenters. Jim's here.
Yeah, and Robert's here.
His house is here.
I can hear you.
Brian's here presenting.
Okay,
All
two.
right.
Okay.
We'll wait just a couple more minutes since everybody was a little bit late getting here.
Yeah, the traffic is awful.
Yeah. I like that.
Good to see you, Doug.
Hi. Yeah, it's good to be here.
How did the print share go, Doug, that you were hosting?
It was good. I think there were, let's see, about 9 people shared.
Nice.
Yeah.
Good. Thanks for doing that.
Oh, sure.
I had tickets to a rock and roll concert and now am sure that I'm too old to go to rock and roll concerts. Because
Did they go too late for you, Ray? Is that the problem?
it was too loud and too late. It was so freaking loud. It's just a wall of distortion, you know?
Oh my gosh.
And some guy screaming. I really had high hopes, but I,
Back in the day.
yeah, it was too loud back. I used to think if they took a vote in the arena, if everybody wanted to turn it down by half, I'm sure everybody would agree. But then we might
Everybody but
actually,
those people that remembered their earplugs.
right. Yeah, I just can't. It's kind of like, you know, where in movies today, you know, a lot of movies now that all the scenes are super dim lit and that they do a lot of swish pans and stuff, so we don't actually get to see what's going on. I often wonder if it's so loud and distorted so we can't actually hear them playing.
Or if they're playing well. Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Or if they're just, but
Like music videos, you can't actually see the people perform or dance. It flashes so fast.
swish pan. All right, welcome everybody. We'll kind of get started here and Doug will continue to let people in that come. Welcome back. We're here tonight with 3 of our members showing their work, and we actually have a last minute little 10-minute slideshow from a group of our members that went off to the coast a couple of weeks ago that we're going to see. And then we have our summertime monthly challenge. So we got a lot to talk about and see. Is there anybody here that's visiting tonight? We always like to have people introduce themselves if they're new or just visiting. Anybody in that category?
I'm Lonnie Smart. I'm visiting from Yakima.
Oh, thanks, Lonnie. Good to see you. Are you here because somebody you know is participating, or you just found out about us?
No, I just found out about you, and it's like it's kind of a desert here besides the desert of no rain. It's the desert of groups. So it's nice to have a group, and you know, I'd like to be part of groups even further out.
Well, welcome. We're glad you're here.
Hmm.
How about announcements? Has anybody got a big show or a award they want to tell us about?
Yeah, I do.
Go ahead. Where are you? Giannis?
No.
Who was it that said they did?
Me, Kathleen.
Oh,
Oh, wait
go
a
ahead.
minute, let me take the thing off my. Okay, can you see me?
Can.
Yeah.
Okay, anyhow, I just found out, well, I found out about, maybe it was a month ago. I entered the Julia Margaret Cameron Awards, which is held in Barcelona. And actually 3 of my pictures got in, and 2 were honorable mentions, and I got a winner for the street photography section. So I'm pretty excited about that, and probably going to go to Barcelona in October.
Wow.
Well done.
So I don't know if any of you have ever heard of that awards. I never had. A friend told me to enter it, but it's held once a year, and it's to promote women photographers. So all the people who entered it are women photographers, and there were quite a few they were very generous in giving out honorable mentions and so it was a lot of fun.
Well, good for you. That's a big deal.
Thank you.
Yeah, congratulations.
Thank
Can,
you.
can you put a link in the chat? Do they have a website? Can you?
Yeah, I can try to. Let me go to the website and see if I can put that in the chat.
If you search Julia Margaret Cameron Award, you're going to find it. It happens every year and has for a long time.
Also, you're familiar with it?
Very.
That's a good one.
Oh,
That's a
yeah,
good
it's a
one.
really big name.
Yeah.
So congratulations. That's quite a
Thank you.
feather in your cap.
She was a brilliant photographer, so I'd put that right on my resume if I was you.
Mhm.
I'd love to see the photos. that
Yeah, there you can
submitted,
see them
too.
online, definitely.
Yeah,
Pat, didn't you just win something? No,
Pat Rose or Pat Willie?
Pat Rose.
Oh, well, four of us in PPF were selected for it's not quite the Julia Margaret Cameron Awards, but at the Lightbox Photographic Gallery, we did a jury of your peers. And I believe it was, besides myself, it was Lauren and John Jacobson, and I don't know if Kathy's here today, Kathy Rady, who won second place, actually. I met her for the first time at the last print share in May. So congratulations, Dawn and Lauren, and
Well, thank
Kathy,
you.
if you're there,
And you, Pat.
and me.
Indeed.
Actually,
You
really
have two prints
interesting
in there.
concept. It was a jury by your peers.
Yes.
where, the participating artists got to choose the images that were going to be in the show. And Michael had a rather complex scoring system, but so it was a very clever idea, and I was very honored to have it.
Yeah, he's actually done that before, and I think if I'm not mistaken, we have approached him about doing a PPF show in November, and he may conduct that as a jury of peers too, but maybe not. Anyway, it's a nice experience to be a juror, and so he has you rank out. I think there were something like 308 photos.
Yeah, 308 pictures.
308 pictures. And
Yeah.
so your task as an individual, contributor to the submitter to the call was to choose your top 10. So you had to get it down to 10, but not only that, but you had to rank those 10. So it's kind of like, you get to feel like you're a juror. So it's kind of interesting. And a few of mine that were on the list got ultimately my fellow jurors agreed with. But I'm very happy that they liked a couple of mine.
So if you submit 5 yourself and you vote for those 5, you really only have to pick 5 more. Is that right?
You
You
can't
don't
vote for your own.
Vote for yourself.
Yeah, you don't get to
Vote for
vote
your
for
own.
yourself. Yeah, and you can submit 10.
Gotcha.
I would have voted for myself because I didn't get in. And I could have, so no, you can't do that.
I have a question about an upcoming show at Lightbox. I'm not sure if I understood it correctly, but it sounds like it's a $50 entry fee, and that will include the printing of your photograph, and I believe the matting. And how do people feel about someone else printing their work, getting it ready for exhibition?
Yeah, Susan, this way they did that. Michael did that for this show. It's called Wonderful. It was a jury of your peers, and you paid $40 to submit up to 10 images. And for the 24 people selected by their peers to actually hang in the show, he has offered to print them and matte and frame them for us. So there's no cost to you for printing. And if you know Michael Granger, you're not at all worried about him printing your work because he does an excellent job.
I don't
So-
mind him printing my work at all. It's just,
Yeah.
he does a great job.
Does such a great job. So for that particular venue, Susan, I'm not at all worried. But if I didn't know who the printer was, I might be a little worried.
Yeah, as long as you have a calibrated monitor and the printer uses a good profile, I don't see a problem. Yeah.
Right.
I've had one done by him and it worked very well.
I mean, I can really see how it works for people who are overseas or don't want to ship. It just struck me as something kind of odd. You know.
No, not at all. I think a lot of galleries do that. If you submit to these calls and you don't want to putz with the postage and so forth, if you're willing to give up your, your high res digital file, then, these galleries do that all the time.
Then you get to pick whether you want to use photo media or art mat.
No, I don't think so.
No.
I think it probably varies by gallery, but in my experience, you just say, I want this size and, maybe matte or
For the
luster.
for the one that I'm entering, there's two choices. You can do it's called, I think, dye bond or something like that. It's like an aluminum. And then the other one is more traditional with a mat around it. But I haven't been given the information on what type of paper they use. And so the way they do it is they have the pictures printed, I believe in a place in London. So you have to send a high resolution. And I just, I'm just trusting that they're gonna get my picture the way I want it. But at that point, you have no control. And they will say that if the pictures don't turn out right, they have the choice, or they have the right not to show them. So,
The
so it's,
gallery has is highly motivated to have a good looking image. And they're going to do their best to make sure that your image is going to look good in their gallery. There's a gallery in Minneapolis that I've gotten into a number of shows, and they give you the option of them printing. And frankly, with the cost of shipping and the likelihood of sales means you're going to pay for having it shipped back. It's cost effective to have a gallery print your work for you.
that's how I
Absolutely.
feel. I think they're gonna do a better job than my little printer that I use.
Yeah. I think that's something that's come around in the last handful of years. We're going to move on because otherwise we're going to run out of time. So I hate to cut you guys off. We're going to I'm going to show the monthly challenge, and then we're going to look at the slides from the beach, and then we'll start in with the members. So yes, Susan, it's a sign of the times. Let's see what, and I used music last time, but I used music on the slideshow last time, and YouTube yelled at me, so we can't do that anymore. Well, where's my mouse? So thank you, everybody that submitted. I like looking at those. Giannis, I think that's the only time I've ever seen you in long pants. And I encourage everybody to participate. It's a great way to get your work shown to everybody. And sorry, we can't do the music. I haven't been able to track down any unlicensed music for us to use. Now,
I may be able to help you with that next time, Ray. Just
Okay.
give me a shout.
yeah, I just need about 3 minutes to loop or 9 minutes total.
Yeah, I could practically just create something myself. So
Cool.
me
Lauren, you
know.
go ahead. Thanks. That'd be great, Brian. Lauren, you got time to do your thing?
Yep, ready to go.
So tell us who's all in this.
Okay,
ballgame.
so in the middle of May for 4 days, Pete Gomina, Evan Schneider, and Bill Kirby and I went down to the Manzanita area and photographed for 4 days, mostly Manzanita, Neoconi Beach area, and then we went to Hug Point, and then Bill and I stopped at Arcadia Beach on the way home. So it was a really small area. We didn't really fan out like we would normally do sometimes. So, and I didn't, when I put the pictures together, I didn't separate them out into but into portfolios from individuals. I put them all together. They're all mixed up. So they're mostly by date and time and place. So I'll go ahead and set up the share screen. And if any of the other three guys want to chime in here on any comments, that would be awesome. Okay, here we are. So Pete and Evan stopped somewhere along the way on the way down. And so that's obviously not beach, but it's pretty cool. So I'm not going to really explain these. I'm just going to click through them.
Perfect.
Nicola.
Hmm.
Then there are just a few images of us doing our thing, from photographing to print sharing to cooking and eating and what we do best. trying to figure things out. Shooting each other. Buying the oysters, eating the oysters. There we go.
It was a long day.
Right on.
My favorite kind of hunters, shooting in the wild.
That's fun. I'm not sure what Peter thought he was going to see through the back of that pinhole camera, but
I'm not sure what I was going to see through my eyelids either in that last shot, but you know.
You were composing something, I'm pretty sure.
right on.
Minimalism.
Thanks, Lauren,
You
for
bet.
showing us those. I mean, those are the kind of things that we used to do a lot, and it's fun to see you guys doing it again.
I enjoyed those. I
Yeah,
enjoyed those, especially, whoops, I guess I don't have to unmute. Huh?
you're good.
I'm good. I enjoyed those, but I have to say I especially enjoyed the ones that you guys were in.
Yeah, those were priceless.
Yeah, it's fun because I was trying to figure out whose was whose from what I know about y'all. So that's interesting too. Can kind of see the Bill Kirby pinhole. But I have a hard time between you and Pete sometimes, Lauren.
Mm,
So, okay, thank you again.
you bet.
Mr. Robert Bergstrom, are you ready to show us your goods?
Yeah, I'm ready. Let me do the screen share here and find my Lightroom catalog. Let me move these things out of the way. There we go. So I wanted to thank Ray and Pat Rose and Rita Silent for reaching out to me and inviting me to speak to the meeting tonight. This is a project I did last autumn. I called it Fire and Water. It's fiery autumn leaves in water and creeks and streams mostly. This course is Silver Falls State Park, which was what kind of got me inspired to do this series. So 10 of these prints are currently in the PPF community drawer at Blue Sky Gallery, and they'll be in the drawer just until the end of the month, which is just about another week.
I saw them down there. They're lovely.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. So I think I have 27 images to go through. So not all of these are in the drawer, but 10 of them are. This image was in the photography exhibit in April at Oregon Society of Artists and received an honorable mention from Giannis, who was our esteemed judge. I've used a lot of color grading effects in Photoshop and in Lightroom. And if we have time at the end, I'll give you a basic run through of how I did that. In the autumn, when the water gets really low, a lot of the rock at the bottom of the creeks gets exposed, and it catches these large maple leaves. I think this was the image that kind of got me interested in doing this project. I'm not sure if those spots on the maple leaf are a disease or if they're supposed to be there, but and these leaves were backlit by the afternoon sun, and I didn't do anything with this one in Photoshop.
Maybe you said, Bob, but what is the location?
So this is in Silver Falls State Park.
Okay.
I also made a number of trips out to Oxbow Park, which is out past Gresham on the Sandy River. It's mostly used by fishermen, but I just enjoy walking along the shore and finding things to take photos of. And here I was able to find a lot of leaves floating in water. And I think this image is probably my favorite of the lot. Again, I like the rich colors, and I don't know, somehow it has an interesting composition. I'm not totally sure why. I think maybe because it has one big leaf with several smaller leaves. I think sometimes there's a balance between finding leaves as they were, and then versus piling things up to make a more deliberate composition. But this was just how they were in the creek. And likewise, this one was floating down, so I took several shots of it as it floated by, and then juiced up the colors a little bit in Lightroom, or I'm sorry, in Photoshop. I think if you look close, there's like a water skipper over the edge of the leaf. And of course, these ones I juiced up in Photoshop, but I really like the kind of the fiery effect of the orange and yellow colors. These were just kind of strewn along the path over the exposed roots. So I kind of thought that this image kind of maybe didn't have a real center of interest. So I found this one. There was a boulder that had a couple of maple leaves on it. So I picked off the maple leaves and tried this composition with 3 or 4 or 5 different maple leaves in different positions. And this is the one that I ended up liking the best.
So Robert, when you're, laying out like these leaves, like what kind of thought process do you have when you talk about composition? I mean, like, are you thinking, magic rule of thirds? What are you thinking?
Yeah, so these the ones all around it were just kind of there on the ground, and then there were a couple that were on the boulder, and those I picked off. And I guess I tried to pick one that was large enough that it filled enough of the space, as opposed to like a smaller leaf that really wouldn't take up much room, but something that would be interesting and have some color variations in it. This one I've been using as my screensaver. And these were just some ferns, and again I did some color distortions with Photoshop, but I don't know. I think the color kind of gives an autumn feeling to it.
So Robert, did you line these ferns up? I mean, they look like soldiers marching or standing at attention or something like that, or was this?
No, no, these were just how they were. 3 of them were closer together and one was a little bit apart. So you look at it and you shoot it, a couple pictures one way and a couple photos a different way, and Um, Now, the other place I found to photograph is Starvation Creek State Park. It is a rest area that's out near Hood River, just before you get to Hood River. And if you walk 100 yards past the bathroom, there's this really nice creek there, which is this one that was just strewn with maple leaves. So I spent an hour or more just getting photos of the creek and the leaves in the water. This one I like because the leaves kind of just envelop you, and it's hard to, it's almost an abstract in that, you know, you can see there's a creek in the background, but there's just kind of maple leaves all everywhere. But like, I think with this one, you know, the creek kind of leads in from the right lower corner and carries your eye up through it. Although your eye kind of gets into all that mess of bright yellow leaves. This one was also in the April gallery show at OSA. I actually like this one better than the first one. These are just some maple leaves that are underwater, and of course the water distorts it.
And so, Robert, are you ever using like a polarizer on these, or you know?
I don't think I used a polarizer on any of these. These are just some half-second or quarter-second shots on the tripod of the creek. And again, with these, it's always you know, an idea. Okay, how do you get a composition out of this? You know, on this one, I included that green rock in the lower right-hand corner. And then I think your eye kind of goes to the collection of leaves at the very top of the picture, but also the one in the lower center. And these were just in my yard from an ornamental cherry tree. And I liked how they had just kind of clustered in an oval shape. And the contrast of the yellow of the cherry leaves with the red of the blueberry bush. Now, these were in the rainwater in the wheelbarrow around the side of my house. And actually, these ones I did shoot with a polarizer so I could get through the surface of the water more easily. And I think with this one, I used the 24-70 lens with at 70 millimeters. And I liked the little bubbles along the edge of the leaf.
Robert, how did you get those colors, you know, that dark background with the almost like lit up leaves?
Yeah, I did a couple of little tricks in Photoshop, and I'll show you some of those. Basically, I create a duplicate layer and then use different blend modes to combine the layers, and then do like a color vignette to like brighten the center and darken the edges. This is just a landscape bush in front of my house, but I like the red colors and the raindrops on it. on some of these, I think on this one, I used the Lens Baby macro lens, which Lens Babies have their pluses and their minuses. They don't have a drive motor in them. So it doesn't really talk to your camera. So you never know afterwards what f-stop you shot it at. And you have to manually focus everything. This is a wild rose out in the woods in the park where we go for walks in the morning. Again, I just like the raindrops on it. And this one was out at the Oxbow Park, right along the edge of the water. And I think it's kind of interesting the way just the two leaves are, you know, you kind of call it heart to heart, you know, just the positioning of them kind of makes them look like they're friends or lovers.
I really respond to this one. It's like because of the simplicity.
Yeah, I think this is probably one of my favorites of this whole bunch.
I just said I love this one, but I realized I was muted, so I'm saying it again.
Oh, thank you.
It's like the contrast, like those big round, you know, steel looking boulders and rocks and stuff, and these two little lovers, you know, are just kind of hunched, you know, in this environment.
Right. They're kind of cuddled together in this cold, hard world. This one was sort of set up. I found this stump that had been freshly cut and really like the deep red color of it. So I picked off a fern and curled it around the edge and found these maple spinners that look like moths. But again, I think it's the contrast with the red and the orange against the green. Let's see. Now, let me see if I can go to my Photoshop. So I'll show you. This is, I think, 4 different versions of the same image. This was what I started with. So this is like only doctored in Lightroom. And then that was from Photoshop with one blend mode. That was with a different blend mode. That was with a different blend mode. And that was the one that got the honorable mention. So let me see. If I go to Photoshop, can you guys see that Photoshop, or do you still see Lightroom?
Still Lightroom.
You're still in Lightroom, yeah.
Okay, so I think what I have to do is stop screen share and then restart it on the Photoshop. Okay, there you should have it. So this is the original file, which was actually taken in a little garden in front of Oregon Society of Artists in November of the ornamental Japanese maple. And so basically what I do is like a 3-step thing, and then I try, 20 different versions of it. So first I make a duplicate layer. Oh, why isn't that? Let me do this. I make a copy of the layer, and then I do a Gaussian blur at about 50 pixels. and then put it on a blend mode. So if I didn't do any blend mode, it would just look like that. That's just with the Gaussian blur. So I won't go into great detail about blend modes, but mostly I use either soft light, overlay, multiply, or color burn. But so like for this one, if I started with soft light and I put it at about 50 to 70%, you can see if I turn it off and on, it kind of brings out the colors a little bit more, and it enhances the contrast. And then behind that, I use this diamond gradient layer, which is like a vignette with colors. So I'll show you what that would look like if it was just opaque. So it's under the adjustment layers, and it's under gradient. And so I usually set this up to have either yellow or orange in the center, and then a darker blue around the edges. And then somehow the underlying picture, it enhances the brightness of the colors in the leaves, and then helps to darken the rest of it. So it's basically, it's like a vignette, but it does add kind of that glow of color. And so I usually use this one either on soft light or overlay, and usually at about 50 to 70%. So if I turn this on and off a couple of times, you can see what it does. It kind of adds a vignette to it that kind of help draw your eye to the center. And then if I did the, instead of soft light, if I did the multiply tends to darken everything. So in that case, you need to use the brighter gradient. So if I turn that off and on, it helps bring your eye right to the center of it. So anyway, so it's a little trick, and you know, it's like a drug. Once you use it, you want to use it on everything. So I've tried it on flowers and whatnot. So let me go see if I can go back to my Lightroom again. I have one more image on Lightroom. Let's see. Okay, and hopefully you see my Lightroom again. So this last shot was taken in the spring, and this one is right now in the gallery at Oregon Society of Artists in the Rose Festival show. And it did get an honorable mention. So this is just at Selwood Park in March in the rain. And I liked how these camellia petals had washed down onto the pavement, and how it goes from white petals to red petals to pink petals as it goes back. Let's see. And if we have time, I just wanted to put in a plug for OSA, Oregon Society of Artists. I have been a volunteer there, and am on the workshops committee, and was tasked with finding some photography workshops for 2023. So we have 3 that are scheduled. The first is Susan Bean is going to teach a workshop about making a photo book in blurb, and that will be in February. And I think Susan had spoken to PPF last year. And then in May, we have David Cobb, who is a photographer from Mosier, and who has a couple of books about Japanese gardens of North America. And he's going to teach a workshop in May about garden photography. And then in July, our PPF member Don Jacobson is going to teach a workshop about macro and wildflower photography. And I did get approval to get member pricing on the workshops for PPF members.
Great.
So I guess I'll stop there and answer any questions people have.
Bob, I liked how you took us all on a journey of the, just intimate aspects of the environments that you were in shooting. Your macro approach was very, very nice, but did a very good job of framing and exploiting the natural colors and improving upon those to make your own artistic vision come through. So very
Thanks,
nicely
Pat.
done.
Yeah, when I started in photography, I of course started just shooting large landscapes. But at this point, I just have a lot of fun walking around with the camera and just looking for scenes to shoot. And none of these places are too far. Although this summer I'm planning to go to Iceland and Greenland and Sweden.
Nice.
So
Wow.
That'll be something.
yeah, I'm gonna be on a week on a boat in Scoresby Sound in East Greenland.
Wow.
Very cool.
Really nice series, Robert. I'm curious when you went to Oxbow to get the nice colors.
I think most of them were in October and November. I think the very last one was in December. Yeah, it's interesting how the colors kind of hang on, into November and December, sometimes even longer than you would think. But yeah, Oxbow is. I've had some pretty productive trips to Oxbow. I think I probably went out there 4 different times last fall.
So is that up the road closer to Corbett? Is that what we're talking about?
Yeah, it's out past Gresham.
Well, yeah, I know where the general area, I mean, I know where the exit is, but then there's Sandy River kind of starts up there. And so I think Oxbow's about, what, mile or two from I-84?
Yeah, I'm not sure how you get to it from I-84. I know you can get, I think you go out Division and you keep going out Division until it ends.
Oh, all right.
Okay, well, thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Robert.
Thank you.
Whoop, where did you guys go? Hang on. Whoa, you disappeared for a second. I've got this new computer, and if I touch it, you all go away. Brian Churchill,
Yes.
I hear you're going to start a little debate with us all.
Oh, I don't know. I don't want to call it a debate. I just want to share my experience here.
Conversation.
Yeah. Let's see if I can figure this out here. I don't know why I can't get to my window. Oh, I have to share screen first, right?
Yeah.
Well, allow Zoom to share your screen. Oh, I must not have done that. Hold on. Let's quit and reopen. I may have to split and come right back. Hold on.
Oh, you're muted, Ray.
I was going to say, should we let him back in?
Okay, let's see if I fixed it here. This is a new computer, and I think that's the problem. Ah, here we go. Okay. Y'all see that?
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, cool. So let me just set this up a little bit. So I had a show. I live in Manzanita, by the way. Had a show here, local art gallery. And it was, hosted by a bunch of folks, and I was invited, curated, and a part of a show with about 2 or 3 other photographers and somebody who done extensive pottery. And then there was this, I don't know if he was the owner of the gallery or manager or whatever, but he invited us all to get up and talk about, our work. And it was the opening day or whatever, and it, a bunch of people. And so it was an opportunity to sort of meet folks coming into the gallery, et cetera. And he said, when you give your presentation, I'd like you to talk about art versus craft. And then he sort of got on a little bit of a rant before he even got started. And I got the idea that he wasn't particularly happy that photography was part of this show. And it really bothered me. And I got to say, I had friends, family, I had met other photographers, was getting to know them during the day. And then this thing started. And I'm just like, why is this debate important? And as I started looking into it, it's not a new debate. And I guess in some circles, it's pretty hotly debated, but, comparing art and craft, the idea of art being unstructured and boundless and, driven by emotion and feelings and vision versus activity, creating tangible objects using skills and, aesthetic purpose of art versus decorative or functional, and, what a photo is representing, whether, it's driven by feelings and visual qualities versus created with tools and materials, and, the idea of what a camera does and doesn't do. And it was just, it really bothered me, so I started looking into this idea. And, the dictionary obviously refers to photography as a person who takes photographs, which isn't really helpful. And that, especially as a job, versus a craftsman who practices a trade or handcraft, one who creates or performs with a skill in the manual arts, which I thought was interesting. And to be a master craftsman meant you had to have absolute understanding, control of the tools used in the trade, creating high quality objects, et cetera. But the interesting thing about craft that I didn't really think of was it's creating an object for the sake of itself, but typically useful to someone else, versus an artist whose expression and application of their imagination or whatever feelings, thoughts, ideas, composition, whatever emotional value is being placed upon this particular moment in the shutter's life as you are making the decision to capture something. And I know that Andrew Greenhill hates the word capture as it refers to creating art because it just sounds aggressive. But, what's interesting about what I came to understand about this debate is that according to at least definition and what folks believe, craft has more to do with having something to create for others, where an artist has something to say. And, my feeling is, are those two things mutually exclusive? And obviously not. I mean, just looking at Robert Bergstrom's work and all of the thought and intentionality of what he's doing craft-wise is inherent in the result. And I think that a lot of his photos come together with, I think a particular voice, which is the result of good craftsmanship. So, versus, somebody who you might think, wow, this person's really artistic, but maybe they haven't really studied the use of a camera or understand its value. And, they get an iPhone and they start taking pictures, and you can tell they've got something there, quote, the soul of an artist, but they lack a real voice because they lack a particular vocabulary. So, I started looking at my work, and, I've only picked up the camera back in 2019. And I started to ask myself after the fact, after this show, why did I pick up the camera? What am I after? And it caused me to go back and just sort of look at all of my photos pre-COVID, where I started. I started in Italy, literally just bought a camera to go on vacation, and I never owned one. I barely used my camera on my phone, wasn't particularly interested. And obviously, like a lot, that's not an original story by any means, but it caused me to, it caused a spark, right? And I worked with the camera. I joined PPF afterwards, got to know a bunch of, folks. And, I've seen a lot of great work here and in other places. So, as I walk through these, I want to kind of talk about what I was thinking, but also in the sense of whether or not what I'm doing, is at the end of the day, a point of view, a voice. And I've got several different genres, I guess. So I want to kind of explore those with you. Obviously, everybody recognizes Tillicum Bridge. This is one of my earlier photographs. I played with this a little bit. Obviously, the sky doesn't look dark gray like this in Portland, but I tried to capture what I thought was a really interesting angle and composition without capturing the whole bridge like everyone has, and giving it sort of a new voice with really high contrast. And I felt like that hard blue-ish color was almost metallic, a compliment to the bridge itself. And it was very intentional the way I did this. I felt I was making an artistic statement with it, but it's real easy to find other people taking pictures of this bridge. And, whether it's original, whether it's artistic, or whether I'm just capturing something that's easily recreated, I don't know. But that's kind of part of the debate is if craft is something you can recreate, then it really isn't much of an art. And I don't know if I agree with that, but anyway, there you go. Next, hold on here. Next one, this is just a shot in Italy. It's one of my first pictures, probably within the first week. It's near the Amalfi Coast. Love the architecture. And I just thought in the way I arranged it in the frame, capturing the scenery and just sort of, arranging what I could get in the frame. I just like the picture. Whether it's just, another vacation photo, I don't know, but there was intention there as I was lining this up and composing the shot. And this one, it was about a week later, as I started really getting used to Italian architecture. And this one I obviously played with extensively because I really wanted it to be painterly. A lot of these colors existed on this street, but they were obviously hued. And I worked with this photo to just create this panoply of color to almost look like, an urban carnival. And I was lucky enough to get a motorcyclist at the very end of the shot, just before he got to the street and made a left. But I loved the photo, and I was very intentional about it wanting to feel like a painting or artistic in nature. Artistic in the true sense, I guess, painting and sculpture and everything else. So that was my idea.
So Brian, are these like pictures that were in the show that you got you guys were talking about?
No, I'll get to those. I should tell you, the show was curated and it revolved around a theme called Spring into Spring. They only wanted photos that were mostly landscape. And believe it or no surprise, a lot of flower entries, a lot of landscape stuff, a lot of macro photography with, bugs and birds and, things that other people did. And then I had I basically wrapped it with my black and white, which I'll show you at the kind of the very end.
Okay.
I got 4 of my 5 photos were in here, but I started looking back at my work after that comment and was like, am I just throwing up photos for the sake of for the sake of doing it, or do I have intention? So these are kind of representing, I guess, for me, what I've been trying to do as an end result. And I guess some of the photos that I'm most proud of.
Brian, could you hold on for a second? I have a question about this. I found it interesting. Like you said that you wanted this to look like a painting.
Yes.
I wonder, where does that statement fit into your debate about the craft? And I forgot what the other side of craft was supposed to be.
Craft versus art.
Okay, so you wanted this to look like a painting. And
Correct.
so I'm kind of confused, like where does that fit into your craft art?
Well, because, well, that, I think, well, you tell me, because what I'm trying to tell you is what my intentions are. And that's what I'm now struggling with, is like, okay, is the idea of taking a photo and making it look like a painting anything at all? Does that, you know, with the choices that I make as I start, you know, as Robert was making choices about what he wanted to layer and what he wanted to pop and what he didn't want to pop and what he wanted to push behind, and taking a photo and making it look like something, as I start to, well, and you're kind of the master of Photoshop doing comp work, where you put your images together and do double exposure stuff, and you know, you're playing like you've got a canvas, right? That's what I'm doing, I feel. But I could be wrong. This is just me talking, Giannis. Don't know.
Well, this is an age-old question. I mean,
Yeah.
since photography started practically, but I'm thinking, for example, in the late 19th, early 20th century, there was the movement called pictorialism. People like Edward Steichen and I think Stieglitz was in that movement, where they intentionally made photographic images that were a departure from reality, with the intention to, you know, be accepted into the art world, you know, painters and other, you know, types of visual arts.
Right.
And so that was really quite the deal for quite a long time. And they had all these kind of gauzy, you know, frames of beautiful women and flowers and so on and so forth. That was quite the thing. But then the debate completely changed later when, of course, the likes of Ansel Adams came along and totally rebelled against that whole sensibility, wanting to move more into realism, super realism, and have photography accepted as an art form on its own merits, not as a kind of imitation of what the painters and others did before them, with the intention of, or the hope of, being accepted into that, you know, as a true form of art. So he kind of stood it on its head. And I think since Ansel Adams, I mean, I'm no expert on the history of photography, but I do believe he was instrumental in shifting that debate to, you know, showing photography as an art form in its own right, without having to, you know, imitate, you know, high art of other types. So it's kind of interesting that somebody would still in this day and age say, oh, I don't think photography is an art, it's a craft, because that, you know, that's been, you know, hashed around forever. So that guy's just out of the loop.
It should piss you off too, right?
Yeah, he's an idiot.
So let me continue. So I started looking at
Brian, Brian, can I ask a question about the, you know, the colorful picture?
Yep.
That you said you were trying to make a painting. Were you really trying to make art and say something with that?
Yeah, I was. I thought it actually looked a lot better than the original capture, because I loved the geography, the geometric aspect of this street and all of the variety of color, which was hued. And as I started pushing things and making intentional choices about what I wanted to do with this picture, I started to like it more.
So I say
you were really as an image.
Yeah, you're really trying to make art, not make a painting.
Yeah, okay, yeah, an art as using painterly ideas, right?
No, using art ideas.
Okay. I mean, I see brush strokes. You know what I'm saying? That what I'm saying is taking the idea of tools that aren't available to me with a mouse and levers that aren't a mouse. And, you know, Photoshop's full of quote brushes, right?
Right.
So the idea of taking those tools and figuring out a way to make this image speak to me.
There you go.
Well, you know, Brian, I think this whole argument, it is an age-old argument, but to my mind, in my opinion, it was settled when MoMA did an exhibit of Amish quilts decades ago.
Exactly.
I mean, what more can you say? Everybody else was dismissing Amish quilts as craft, except for the best artists in the world.
Right.
So, or
I'll
among the
totally-
best artists in the world. So I think that that you can just ignore the argument and do what satisfies you emotionally and satisfies me emotionally and forget about the argument.
But I do want to open it up a little bit to the idea of, because I mean, curating yourself and making decisions about where your art starts and where your craft stops, or what blend of it. Because, you know, not every photo that I take and not every intention that I have, I would label as artistic. So knowing where the line is and what I'm after, and where does it start to emerge? Where does the emotion start to emerge? Where does the inspired decision making start to merge from the simple idea of taking a snapshot of something that I've cropped in a frame, and then bringing it to life, or being satisfied with what the shutter did all by itself because of the decisions I made right there on the spot. You know what I mean? So I still think that there's still something, at least for me, and maybe it's not settled for you guys, and listen, I've only been doing it a couple of years and I really appreciate that you got this insight. It's just something that I'm feeling in my own work now. I struggle because it just sort of set me off a little bit, you know? Like,
So
I used to listen, so I can get through this. So I started looking at my street photography, and I started in Europe, and this shot I took, and I'm like, there's something beautiful about this.
Mhm.
And it isn't, and I was very intentional about what I was doing with the textures. I looked at this street. I waited for this lady to get all the way down to the bottom. I only had a couple of seconds, but I was like, there's something that I love about this picture. But then as I started to think, well, what is street photography at the end of the day? Is it composition? Or I think a little bit. But how much control do I have over it? Maybe some, but maybe not a whole lot. But then, a lot of this is really architecture. It's not street photography, but it is, you know what I mean? So it's like, I started to question a lot of these things, but then I look back at this image and I said, I find artistic satisfaction in it. I find that the composition speaks to me, that it just has a feeling about it. You know what I mean?
I think that what you've experienced is the rub of competition and art making. So you're a person who's been making photographs and you've been satisfied with them and they're feeling good. So you enter a competition and somebody spends, however many minutes looking at your work and says something that questions all the things you thought you had resolved. And
Yeah,
so
maybe.
the question becomes, do you allow that questioning to go on, or do you realize that's part of this sort of art making competition thing that we all come up against now and then? And I'll say for sure that if you entering juried competitions, all fun and games till you don't get in.
Oh, sure.
And then you're like, well, wait a minute. I thought I was an accomplished photographer, and now suddenly somebody tells me my work is shit. And so then I look
Right.
at the show and I think, well, that stuff is shit. So what happened to me? And
Right.
so I do think it's a funny deal, and that's the double-edged sword of entering those competitions.
Well, the other piece of that too, though, is quite frankly, I always look at events like this as opportunity. So I wouldn't have show could have come and gone. Nobody would have talked about this topic. It would have, I was in a show, blah, blah, blah. But it really caused me to reevaluate a lot of things. And I took that as an opportunity to grow. And that's what I'm hoping comes, through here, at least in hearing how I feel about my work and how I reacted to this. Does that make sense?
Brian, can I ask the picture that's currently showing,
Yes,
is that, was that captured in RAW?
I believe so. I believe my camera was on RAW the whole trip.
Do you treat your images in camera RAW?
I'm not sure I understand what you mean.
Or do you do any of your editing in Photoshop, like when you download
Oh, no,
it?
well, and I use Lightroom, so I'm not sure if I did anything to this image at all. I don't remember. This was in 2019. I can't remember. I have thousands of photos now. I went back through and picked some things that I'd had saved, and I don't remember what I did with this image, quite frankly, if anything.
This is a wonderful image, Brian. And you're bringing out the kind of motherly instinct in me. But you have a great eye, and you should not let some idiot like that, make you doubt your work. The whole notion of arts and crafts, they're both really, even the most highly accomplished, fine artist who paints with a brush is a craftsman.
Right. Yeah.
And they wouldn't be able to produce art if they didn't have the basics of their craft down cold, and years and years and years of study and looking at light and shadow and color and all that goes with it. Well, the same with the photographer. We are craftsmen and we are artists, both in one.
Sure.
There's no doubt about it whatsoever. So just
Well said, Pat. Well said.
Here, here.
Awesome.
So
So
just
Brian,
brush
more
that.
Brian, I'd like to make a comment on this picture that I was.
I got quite a few, so I'm just wanting to get through them, but go ahead. Yeah.
Okay, when I looked at this, the first thing I thought of was Cartier Bresson, who you probably are familiar with. And he did a lot of street photography. But what's so beautiful about this, even though it's centered, and I can hear a camera club ripping it apart because it's centered, but there's actually, there's these beautiful leading lines, and I love the fact that the very background of it, where the woman is walking into that, is a little blown out because it really brings her figure out, and
Exactly.
the sharpness of it is great. I think the symmetry of it is beautiful, and the fact that the right side and the left side both have a unique character to them. To me, it tells a story about
I love, you'll see in my other pictures coming up here, I love silhouette. Human silhouette, I think, is beautiful. I've done a lot of street stuff and I haven't done any portrait work. I just like the human figure, I think, and how it speaks. And this picture spoke to me.
Yeah, no, you
Thank you.
caught it. You caught it. It is street photography. It's beautiful.
Cool. This next one, this was in a building I used to work at, and I really didn't do very much to this photo, but it struck, as soon as I was coming down the stairs, it struck me as just gorgeous. The light, this is just coming out onto the street. This is a garage. This is like a underground garage. The way the light was coming in, the fact that all these beautiful leaves had been blown under the door, and just the cool font and the beautiful just textures, and a little bit of vignetting on the bottom there. I think I did to just center the image, but for me, I composed this picture, and I think I probably took about 10 minutes to get it just right, what stair I wanted to be on, and just all the things that I wanted on it. So compositionally, it was a very intentional act, and I was hoping to capture the light that I was seeing in my camera. So just another example of the way I view street photography anyway. There's all sorts of street photography, but and then I started playing with street photography in a different way. I wanted to be a little bit more avant-garde with it. I started really getting into to revolving doors and getting images that you would normally not get patterns and textures and things, simply because of the way light travels through glass, and especially the way light travels through glass of certain revolving doors. It's just amazing. This is one of my favorite images of a whole series of images that I did once on revolving doors, which I felt was just artistic, whatever that means. And I started playing with light through glass. I think this was a bus stop in Portland, and just loving the way things were, looking at night. And I, just captured this image. I thought it looked really cool. I happened to catch it through, I think that's just that the line that cuts through there was part of the glass, and I left it in there, and I used it as a compositional tool to sort of break up the frame a little bit. So I had a little bit on one side and a little bit on the other. And I just thought the colors were just beautiful. This is also through glass. This was a building in Portland that had this, I don't know any other way to describe it other than just this giant wall inside that was cut open, and you could see all of the lighting on the ceiling. And I took it from the bottom of the window up, looking up as much as I could, so that I could my camera would go up through it. And compositionally, I just thought it looked amazing when it was done. Played a little bit with, I pushed the colors a little bit so that it would be a little saturated. But yeah, just I love the avant-garde nature of it, but it came from architecture.
To give you a 3-minute warning, you have to rock on here.
All right, man. This I took of an instrument in my room. Loved the patterns of it. Just the way I put this together. It's one of my favorite guitars. It's sits on your lap. It's called a Weisenborn. It's got great, just great texture. This is a double exposure image that I took. It's actually the inside of a lamp, and then also some other texture, but just created this image that I just thought was beautiful. And again, something that I could probably never paint, but if I could, and if I could create those textures, I would try it if I was as good on it with a brush. This is a real simple image of a drape that I played a little bit with and tried to make it look like an old photo, and just loved how beautiful and soft and just, vulnerable it looks.
Lovely.
And this is another double exposure image created with a bunch of different things that I took pictures of over time. And I just love the way all of it came together. But again, just avant-garde, just me. All this stretch is just me playing with avant-garde. After I started doing with buildings, I started doing with objects. This was in the show, got a lot of comments, a lot of people, and it actually sold. This was taken in Italy, and it's a companion with this one. The face has newspaper as like paper mache on the mannequin itself. And this was the companion one of that. Artistic in and of itself, but I played with it so that I could get the kind of grain and the kind of texture that I thought really made it pop. So now we're starting to get an avant-garde and also nature. This was taken of a piece of wood and just driftwood. And I just think it's an amazing shot. If you really look at it, you can see the grain, but it also looks like brush strokes. Sand always fascinates me just because of how intricate it can get in the different layers and colors and stuff. There's another one that's really cool, this next one. I can't believe how alive that thing looks. It looks like almost looks like a nervous system or veins or, you know, just like a circulatory system, but it's just sand. It's amazing. And I played with that a little bit to get some texture out of it, just so it wouldn't look so blatantly like sand, because I just thought it was interesting. And this was one of the pieces in the show, just straight up black and white photography. It's in Manzanita, Nehalem. Very intentional perspective. I had my camera almost an inch off the ground. Took it across the bay. I even brought in that light streak intentionally. I wanted it to be just a whole panoply of different things breaking up the horizon all the way up to the sky. And this was one of the images also in there that was taken in Arch Cape. I just, captured a moment, and the eagle that's sitting up there, I think really makes this picture magical once you
indeed
tell it's an eagle. And this, you've all seen this picture, or people that have been around the forum. This is one of my favorite photos. This one was also in the show. Again, it shows that, how much I like silhouette work. The beauty of this shot is just Cannon Beach, these surfers coming off of a long day of surfing. And I spent about maybe 2 or 3 minutes making sure that I had them where I really wanted them in the picture. And, it was a very intentional shot. And that's it.
Right on.
Nice.
Cool. How do I stop sharing? There we go. Thank you. Thanks for the debate and the encouragement and all the nice words, Pat and Ray and all y'all.
Yeah, I was in Chicago recently for a workshop, a photography workshop, and on one of my days off, I wandered into the, I think it was the Fine Art building of Chicago. It's a historical building and wonderful architecture outside and inside. But we somehow wound our way, my husband and I wound our way into a small glass gallery in there, and it was manned by an artist who does glass work and other stuff too. So I got in a little debate with him about just a very mini debate, because he apparently had a photography gallery once upon a time where he showed some of the masters, the black and white people of yore. And I talked about this workshop that I'm in with this wonderful digital photographer, Julia Anna Gospodarou, a Greek woman. And of course, she does all her work digitally and processing in Photoshop. And so I said this to him, and he scoffed noticeably. Photoshop. Oh my God. I said, don't roll your eyes. You think those black and white photographers that you had all over your wall didn't do hard work in the dark room manipulating those images the same way that a digital photographer manipulates them in Photoshop? And he got a little bit defensive and said, oh yeah, I guess so.
Oh, for sure. And on the other hand, Ansel Adams, if he had the tools we have today, would have used them. He would.
Yeah, sure.
Maybe. All right.
Thank you all. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Brian. Those were great. Mr. Jim Hodell.
Hi there. Can you hear me?
Absolutely.
Yes.
All right. So I'm going to share my screen here. Okay. I think that's what I do. Whoops. Can you guys see a picture?
Yep.
Okay. So what I have here is a collection of pictures I've taken over the last few years, and they're mostly when Randy and I are out together at a garden, a flower garden. Oops, I'm at a flower garden or something, and or on a hike. And, we like to spend time together taking pictures. So I guess what this is I'm going to go through a bunch of pictures, and it's sort of a, bright, colorful photographs, what I think of as a pastime. And so here at the Dahlia Garden, I like to take these flower pictures, and I like to have two subjects, the in focus subject and the out of focus subject. And so it turns out that it's easy to find a flower to focus, to photograph, but it's a little bit harder to find one that has a background. So, I hunt around and find the flowers and have a nice time and take these pictures. So I just thought I'd show a few of these.
Beautiful.
And I like sometimes to get, I think of this one as sort of the fan or something. It's cheering this other one on, I guess.
Man, I'm
This
amazed.
one, I actually, and all these are shot out in the Dahlia Garden. And this one has the out of focus area start in front of the in focus area, and then transition to behind, because there's a purple flower in front about a foot from the camera.
Hey, Jim, I don't think are they advancing for anybody else? I'm just telling the
No.
first
No,
one.
I'm seeing only one.
Oh, sorry, am I not?
It's not going forward on our screen, Jim.
Huh. Sorry. Wow. So that's the only one you're seeing?
Yeah, the first
So what
one.
am I doing wrong, do you think?
I don't know
Hang
how
on,
you,
I wonder if I'm. Now let's see if this does it. Can you see that?
Yeah.
there you go.
Okay, so it doesn't like full screen, so that's okay. All right.
It's still full screen for me.
Oh,
Yeah,
all right.
so
Okay,
let's-
that's good. It's not here. All right, so that's good. So here's another one at the Dahlia Garden. Like I said, I walk around and try to find these two subjects, and then have manage the depth of field between the in focus and the out of focus subject.
What is the depth of field? Very, very wide open.
I shoot these depending, I forget exactly. I shoot these anywhere between about f4 and f7.1, depending on how far away the background is. If the background is a little close, I like to shoot at a wider f-stop. But if you tighten it down a little, you can get a little bit more definition. So this might be f1 because the flowers behind her, have a little bit, they're a little bit more distinct. And then I like to have the flower in focus, and like this water drop. But there's always some transition from in focus to out of focus. Like here I was able to line these two flowers up so they're both in focus, and they have a presence. That's why this is like a fan cheering on, like.
That's terrific.
That's lovely.
Then this one is with the out of focus area starting in front, because I could line up shoot through the purple flower to the in focus subject, and then have it blur out in the distance. And that, I don't know, that might be f4. I shoot a lot of these at f4, and I can't remember which ones. Sometimes I use a macro lens too, but so I can't remember whether these were with a macro lens, of course, because it doesn't show on the photo information.
You hand holding these, Jim, or you got a tripod?
No, a tripod. Definitely use a tripod. And in here, I like the bud in the background. I think of this as like the introvert and the extrovert, or the two sisters or something. And try to eliminate distractions. So again, it's still the in focus and the out of focus subject. It's just the out of focus subject is only slightly out of focus.
How did you get the black background? Did you hold a black card behind it?
No, if I get the shadows, see the flowers in enough bright light that when I expose for this, the background goes naturally dark. And then I can use the brush tool to cheat a little too.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's if I can find the shadows and then expose for the bright flower, it naturally has the darker background.
Nice.
Never, what collection of flowers that can't have you have to have a bee at least in one of them. She's having quite a meal there.
That's just great. I love these.
And here's an example of moving around and finding the flower in the bright sun, and then there was a stand of fir trees quite a ways away, and so that allowed me to get a really dark background because the background was in the shade, and this flower is in the bright sun. So let's see, I think I'm moving around here some. So I think, okay, so now we're at the rose garden, and these are all shot with a macro lens, and these are good to shoot on a windy day because you can get down lower on the bush where the branches are a little stiffer, and then you're not so dependent on waiting for it to calm down. So I have a variety of these close-ups of these roses. I just love the shapes of roses.
Mhm.
A shallow depth of field to blur out on the background. You can see the leaves down below in the background of this one.
Ooh, nice.
That is beautiful.
See, so so where am I going here? I can't remember exactly where I'm going, but I changed subjects here. So, oh, okay. Oh, this is a macro shot
Ooh.
of a tulip, which
Mm.
I think of kind of somehow as a geisha. Somehow it looks like it's demure or something. I don't know.
Cool.
And now similar thing, these is fall color. So it's the same kind of thing. I like this in focus, out of focus area, and shooting from inside the tree. This is all the back side of the leaves because you can see the more of the leaf structure, and they're not as shiny. So you don't you can just highlight the leaf against the background. In this case, it's a brightly lit tree, quite a ways away. And these are all shot. These two were shot at the same tree at the same time, and you search around and find some trees nearby that are in the shadows and get a completely different character.
Are you setting your camera on the tripod for these?
Yeah, you have to have a tripod.
Right.
I can't handhold it well
For
enough
that
to do
shallow
that.
depth of field, yeah.
Yeah, and these are mostly shot with 70-200 or a 300 millimeter because you can get a softer background more easily with a telephoto.
Mm-hmm.
And oak leaf, shot out against a slightly brighter background. And I really work to try to have a really sharp in focus subject, and then the backgrounds are a little bit more variable. Smudge leaf, I don't know what that is, but I like all the smudgy colors on it.
Yeah, Robert had one like that too. Something happens to those leaves in their life cycle.
Yeah, you know what? I love I really do love the fall color. I mean, each of these leaves is somehow beautiful to me. And
Oh, that's really something.
Yeah.
I added these shadows and these shadows in post processing just to create an effect. And so this picture and the next one are the same two leaves. I reversed them and then moved around to find this different background. Happens to be a tree on that big intersection on Country Club Road, and I could find a bright yellow tree clear across the intersection. It was far enough away that it just made this completely smooth yellow background. And then I brought his companion, looked for his companions here, and of course they blur out as they naturally do. It's standard foliage kind of shot. I keep my camera in the car with me when I drive around and I see something I like. I stop in the lane of traffic and take. No, just kidding. I pull over where it's safe and take pictures. Another, just a foliage picture.
I'm looking at these with thinking about the discussion we've just had with Brian about art and craft, and we might say the craft part of it is the discussion of f-stop and the tripod and all that stuff, as Pat was saying, but then there's the issue of the art. These are so gorgeous and so beautiful. And who created the art? I mean, nature, some people might say this is not art. This is just a representation of nature. Well, then I think you get into the deep water of, let's forget that argument. That makes no sense whatsoever. These are so beautiful.
Thank you. You know, I don't know. I think they're happy pictures because I'm happy when I'm taking them and they're bright and colorful, and that's, you know, and it's a way for Randy and I to spend time together. This happens to be in the Great Smoky Mountains on a road trip, and you know, you're driving through the Great Smoky Mountains and you have 2 hours to take pictures. You know, I'd love to go back and work the subject, but you stop and do your best. And
who cares about the argument, huh?
you know, it's a cool place, and here's a picture of foliage in the Great Smoky Mountains.
Yeah, I love the intimacy of all these images. It's just so nice.
These are some stone steps at Bishop's Close. If you've been there, it's on Macadam Avenue. They fall in mid-November. They're really late because most of the color is gone by then, but they collect on these steps, and I just like the contrast of the leaves and the steps. Oh, here's some ICMs I took of a fall color with a variety of different hand techniques. Vertical pan here was a twist of camera on the last one. Just a flick of the wrist. There's some trees on Boone's Ferry Road. These are just abstracts focused in, and then a quick hand motion, and you know, the colors turn into these abstracts. And you know, it's fun to try to make fire with with these kinds of abstracts. So let's see, I think we're moving on to something completely different here. I can't quite remember. Oh yeah, okay, ducks. So same kind of a thing with me. And I discovered this, I didn't plan this. I like this two subject in focus, out of focus thing. And in this case, it's these photographs of these ducks with this reflected light. I look for the reflected light, it's bouncing off a tree, and there's a place on the water that has colors I like. I've discovered it's better to find the background I like and then wait for the duck to come by, because I can chase the ducks all over, and it doesn't produce an image that I like. So in a way, the background to me is more important, because that's what I look for. And then I wait to see what duck comes by. And so on this one, you know, it's kind of interesting because a duck came by that had the same tones, the same color tones as the background with this male widgeon, male American widgeon. And so I want to get the duck in focus, and I like to have the little catch light in the eye, and then have the color and motion of the water blur out from front to back. Look around to try to find these completely flat, no wind, completely opaque backgrounds. And these are better on light, high, bright, overcast days somehow, so that I can, you know, sort of etch the bird and the reflection against the flat water.
Do you have to use a polarizer for?
I don't.
Like that last one?
Usually, I don't usually, but I mean, I think it might be a good idea. Here's a winter day, and it's kind of gray. It brings out these olive gray tones that I like, and creates a slightly more subdued look. And you know, portrait of the duck. These guys are pretty tame, so you can get pretty close to them. And I like to find water that has some kind of pattern in color. She's using this on a photo on her Match.com page. And here's the pond mayor speaking to his subjects. They're funny, you know. I think they're entertaining because they amuse me to take the pictures of these ducks.
Yeah.
Here's a selfie in the sunset, or a goose's eye view of the photographer. Let's see, so, now for the other one, which is they call these soft water. And again, I like to have photograph these rocks and then use motion blur to create the out of focus image, trying to find, patterns and texture. And your eye, I don't know whether you look at the in focus or the out of focus subject, but I have a variety of these too. And these are fairly long. I think this is like 15 seconds. And another one that's like 20 seconds. And I like shooting in the rain because the rocks are all dark. They're all dark and wet and shiny. And I just like that effect.
Beautiful.
Like to try to get it so that I can see the rocks under the water. Gives it some depth to me.
What's that, about a second or something?
I think this is more like 20 seconds.
Mhm.
Yeah. So, there's people like shorter or longer exposures, and just most of mine are longer. So I guess that's what I like better. It's the rock is supposed to be real, and the water is supposed to be abstract. That's why I like these versions of these longer exposures. There's another one shot on the Salmon River. Most of these last few are on the Salmon River. This is late in the year when the water is low and all these rocks are showing. And I like the colors, and then the sort of mystical, almost whimsical look of the soft water. Here's an example. This is a half a second. So when the faster the water moves, the more careful you have to be about the shutter speed. And so this one is a half a second, and has much more realism, but still has texture from the blurring of the movement.
Mhm.
So these are more more of the whole animal. I mean, here's a Ponytail Falls in the winter. It's nice to go out to the Columbia Gorge after an ice storm. That's a half a second. And with this kind of fast whitewater, you can't use too long of an exposure. It just gets overexposed and turns all white.
Mhm.
That's the black and white picture of the falls across from Keller Auditorium.
Oh yeah.
This is another picture of a little waterfall that Randy and I were stopping at in the Great Smoky Mountains. And I set the camera on a little rock, and used the shutter release. This is about a half a second, but I can't handhold these either. But you don't need a tripod. You can put the camera on a rock.
Right.
This is
Ooh, that's
looking
amazing.
downstream, going down Panther Creek to Panther Creek Falls. A couple of different shots, again, in shooting in the rain. Trying to get enough motion to capture the speed of the water.
That's wonderfully unusual.
Thank you. A little a creek flowing into the South Sandy Am again on a rainy day, and this is, I think, 20 seconds. Fairly slow water, so creates a soft look I happen to like. The Salmon River, calm October day. Little cloud fog coming off the water because it's warm, and it's nice to shoot on these calm days because you can take a long exposure and the leaves are still sharp. Otherwise they blow around and then all your leaves are blurry. That's it's a shorter exposure. It's the Mackenzie River from between Sahaley and Coosa Falls, and the water really moves through there. So you have to use a shorter exposure, or the water loses all definition. And a picture from Rowena Crest looking east at the Columbia. It's nice to have a nice calm day like this. And then this is a 10-second exposure too, to capture the reflection. So now just some Northwest landmarks, Crater Lake on a cold 15-degree day. You can see the ice forming, kind of a standard landscape shot of Crater Lake. This is the Milky Way over Crater Lake. A couple of years later, we went back and took pictures of the Milky Way. This is one with a crater rim. I still like the verticals, but Crater Lake is so big that you kind of need a giant, big square picture, but hard to get the scale of both the lake and the Milky Way. Just a Palouse. I just moved to the Palouse here in the falls. In the fall, it's subdued in the fall, but there's a lot of movement and texture to find photographing in the Palouse. I mean, I like it a lot. Randy and I have been there, I don't know, 3 times, winter, fall, and summer. There's another winter shot of textures, and the fields are getting ready to go to sleep for the winter. And this is why this picture is where most people go to the Palouse, is these incredible colors. And this is from Steptoe Butte, and we really lucked out because it was just a crystal clear day, and I could shoot this picture with a 300mm telephoto. Another, Northwest landmark, Mount St. Helens. And what was hard about this one is this is my 5th trip before I got there, where there was some clouds of interest. It had the golden colors, and it wasn't smoky. So all the other trips were ruined because it was so much smoke and haze that I couldn't get a clear shot. So taking the picture was pretty easy, but had to drive up there quite a few times to get the conditions. I do really like the depth of this channel of the Toutle River. I mean, it's really an amazing place up there. This is just before moonset, the moon setting in Spirit Lake and Comet Neowise up here in the upper right. A picture of the Painted Hills. I juiced this one up probably a little too much. But I kind of like the supercharged look on this photo, and it was a rare day when there was thunderstorms out beyond the hills, and then the sun peeked through behind me and lit up the Painted Hills. So I took this shot and then tone mapped it, and makes it kind of maybe overly dramatic, but prints up kind of nice. Then here's another picture of the Painted Hills, a little different telephoto shot of the sun and the shadows creeping up. And it amazes me at how the colors change between the bright light and the shadows.
It's very dramatic.
And here's some black and white pictures of the Oregon coast. I'll go through these. I like rocks. And so, and these seem to work in black and white. So there's rocks at Pacific City. Yeah, another day, Randy and I are down at the coast taking pictures. This is Oceanside through the tunnel on a cloudy day that turned out to be better photography than I thought. And of course, you have to have a picture of a couple of pictures of Haystack Rock. This is on a cold winter day. No one else is out on the beach. And this is on a summer day when everybody else was out on the beach photographing. So I thought, why not have one of my other fellow 30 or other 40 photographers out there in the photo. So I shot this picture at 2 a.m. under the Astoria Bridge on a dock, and it's about a 70-second exposure to get the brightness I wanted and this flat water. And it took me a long time to figure out that this triangle of light is because of this part of the bridge. I couldn't see any of that the naked eye. It just emerged in this photograph.
Wow.
It was a warehouse out behind a Safeway where I stopped to get coffee, and I liked it, so I took this. It's about 10 seconds to create the reflections. The lower Columbia and they have these neat old pilings there, and the freighters. Oh, clouds, right? So here's some clouds. This was when Randy and I were scouting for a Milky Way shoot, and first I was upset because you don't want clouds when you're shooting the Milky Way. So I thought, well, okay, these clouds are here. So anyway, it turned into a cloud shoot. And this is, sunset lighting these thunderheads. So I took a couple of those shots. And then this is in about an hour and 10 minutes later of the clouds and the Milky Way. And I couldn't see that, but we were out shooting pictures, and I'm glad I took the time to take these pictures, because the long exposure revealed the Milky Way, and so it's clouds in the Milky Way, and this is terrestrial light reflecting on the clouds from sisters, and waiting to see what the clouds did. And about an hour later, it was really cloudy, and the clouds had moved in, and the wind had picked up, and I could still see the Milky Way shining through the clouds. So I was really happy that we took the time to photograph the clouds. So a couple architecture shots. I have this is the upper tram terminal at OHSU, and this is an interesting building. They've got this. It's on an angle, so I like this well enough that I went back and shot it at night. Here's some work with a tilt shift lens of a building. It's called Tanner Springs Park. It's in the Pearl, and they have this. It's made out of railroad ties. This fence is a pretty interesting thing, and this is a 24 millimeter lens. I'm less than a block away, and so I took this other shot to try to emphasize the light coming through and highlighting these railroad ties. And the tilt shift lens makes the building nice and square. It doesn't look like it's falling back. This picture about the Balch Hotel still has that convergent, falling back look, because it doesn't have the tilt shift lens. So tilt shift lenses are nice for architecture. How am I doing on time? Just about over time here?
Yeah, we're at the end, but if you can wrap it up in a couple of minutes, that'd be great.
Yeah. Okay, good. So, I can quit any time. I just have a variety of, this is a picture at the Oregon State Fair of Ferris wheel, about a 1 second exposure, and it's moving fast and creates these colors. And here's an ICM, a little hand flip of the same thing, slow hand flip, and it combines the motion that I do with the camera and the motion of the Ferris wheel, and creates this crazy cool to color.
Nice.
Oh yeah, I do want to show these. This is a hazy day at the Tetons. We were driving through the Tetons, and I was hoping to get some of the classic pictures of the Tetons, but it was too hazy and foggy. So I went for these silhouettes and used a telephoto lens to squish the different ridges together and try for the shape of these ridges. So you can see how it is so hazy that in the distance it loses all definition, but shot with a telephoto, it created a look that was interesting to me. That one's my favorite of the group. So kind of call this making the best of the day. You're there, you're driving through, you want to take pictures, and it'd be nice to go back. So that's you know, I can quit anytime. Oh, one more of that best of the day thing, a picture of the Badlands. And we were driving through, that'd be another great place to be able to work. You know, this is like in the middle of the afternoon, but oh, if you could go back there and work that for a few days and see what the weather conditions were.
Nice.
Can I just say one thing, Jim? And this is an example of many of your photographs where you get this incredible detail from the very front to way in the background and all the way through. It's really impressive how you do that.
Thanks. I mean, I do like to have on these landscape shots to have a broad depth of field, and you know, this one I cropped to this angle, but this would be a cool place to go back and
Yeah.
and work. It's, I mean, it's aptly named, and there's all kinds of, I mean, so this is one section. There's another area, pretty straight shot, but then there's these rock formations all over the Badlands, and you know, I would like to shoot this at sunset or sunrise, just, you know, to see what there was out there. Oh, Antelope Canyon in our jogging tour through Antelope Canyon. Don't have much time, no tripod, it's all handheld, you know. But that'd be a neat place to go back to also. And it's a little bit dark in there, so I had to shoot at a pretty wide aperture. But this is the Page, Arizona, Colorado River from the Navajo Bridge. It's a neat place. There's these rocks on the Vermilion Cliffs that are beautiful. You know, this was a cool place. There's a geology signboard that explains how these things get like that. But I don't know, I just like the shadows and the clouds and this rock, however it got like that. This is a shot we just stopped and shot pictures of the reflected moonlight. And here's the moon shining on these rocks. I really couldn't see them until I took this 3-second exposure, and that was just stopping and playing around.
Nice.
Oh, and this is the selfie capital of Page, Arizona. You know, the Horseshoe Bend. It's there's everybody was taking selfies, and got there at sunset. Shot this picture with the sun star. You know, it's a really cool place. You know, the water flows in one way, goes all the way around that bend and back out. I mean, what a crazy place.
Hang on one second, Jim. I want to let everybody know that it is 9, and if you want.
Okay, that's good. That's fine. Thanks.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we can end here. That's good. I just wanted to show a bunch of pictures. So thanks a lot.
Thank you. I was going to tell people they could go if they wanted. You could keep going, but that's fine.
No, that's fine.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you.
Let me see if I can turn you off here.
Okay.
All right, everybody. Thanks for coming tonight. Next month we have Susan DeWitt. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. So Susan
And I think
DeWitt
we
will be
have
a future speaker.
Rebecca to do a short presentation as well. Rebecca, I don't know how to pronounce her last name, McPortier.
Yeah, that's it. Perfect. All right, everybody. We'll see you next time. The first Monday, which is coming up, will be in-person print share. If you feel like coming down to the Multnomah Arts Center at 6 o'clock, keep your eye out. I'll send an email. Okay.
Okay.
Thanks, everybody. It was
Thank you.
wonderful. Enjoyed the show. You 3 artists, you.
Yeah, thank you.
Hi.